Hey all. So this is War 10, and this is my first time bringing Kate Bishop to War at all, actually, even including off-season, but definitely the first time in season, and I'm excited but a little bit nervous. I've done variations on pretty much all of these fights before, but let's talk through them. So the main reason to use Kate for this Rintrah is that, well, first off, the bug with her heavy attack has been fixed, and so she can knock him down. You want House of X, but this right here is the thing. You knock him down, you get the Fury, you get that giant cold snap, and at that point it almost doesn't matter if you keep it up. But ideally you do, you keep protection down, and look how much this single cold snap is dealing just from us having the Fury up on that first one and from keeping things paused. So I actually forgot to use my pre-fight here, so we only had the one cold snap, and then our second arrow was Caltrops, or that would have been over even faster, but still an extremely clean fight. Kate is meant to deal with these health pools with only a couple arrows as long as you can keep the first one up, and the Fury on these nodes scales with her damage really, really well. So this next one is going to be scarier in some ways because the mirror match means that we have to deal with the fact that Kate is also in the defender tactic. And so there's going to be some power over time. I did quite a few different duels for this before coming in, and although I think, at a 100% success rate from my testing, as far as successfully dexing the special one, you are going to see here that I am going to block it whenever it is Cold Snap or Caltrops, and sometimes when it's something else. I am also taking my time and pretty much exclusively getting my openings from the riposte or from intercepts, because we can't parry her, and we can't bait out heavies because of the heavy hitter node. So you can see that we lose our first cold snap there. That is completely okay. We knew because of the various challenges on this node and the power gain from the tactic that we were not likely to back her up and refresh. And if we're not dodging some of her special ones, then we're also not going to be punishing specials, and obviously punishing heavies is completely out of the question. So the cold snap isn't doing quite as much here as it was against Rintrah because it's more difficult for us to land the heavy before a special one and to get that big boost on the cold snap, but that's okay. Now we are 2/3 down as we land our third special one, and so if we can keep this rolling, there, see, we are able to punish, but we don't get the credit for it. I guess she has a pretty quick recovery window. Then that third one finishes it off. So, really good illustration of how to slow play things with her. That would not have been a good Battlegrounds matchup, but in War, that's completely okay. You just get one cold snap after the other up, continue using the riposte for your openings, and she does a really good job. This Mole Man is going to be similar. We are not going to use heavies at all, because that would inflict a tracking debuff, which Mole Man would then purify. And if he does that 3 times, he goes unblockable. If he does it even once, it permanently increases his combat power rate because of the power creep node. So we are just not going to deal with that. We're going to land our special ones when we can. We can punish heavies and specials here, potentially. So we can get some pauses in, but we know we're not going to get refreshes, and that's okay. We're going to try and bait special 1s for the most part. Special 2s are not a problem, but we just want to keep him nice and far away from that special 3. You'll notice that I actually forgot to use my pre-fight again. I'm still getting used to that. But the main cold snap, we had paused enough that ended up finishing it without us even getting any ticks of Caltrops damage. So really effective use there, mainly leaning on the fact that her damage comes from passives. So now you're going to see me duel against Shocker, and this is going to end up being a really good textbook case of why we duel. Shocker was not designed first and foremost as a defender, but he has enough tricks that he's actually been getting quite a few kills since his debut, and I did not intend to be one of those. So you'll notice that that stun was pretty short. I'm not going to trust my actual parry stuns because I am running a few points in Limber, but not all 5, and so I just do not want to risk that. You'll notice I don't punish the first special one at all because I don't trust it. I have to assume my opponent is going to be Sig 200 and have another one immediately ready to go. But the big thing that I am testing here is the punish windows. When can I find my openings safely? And, right there, when can I not find my openings safely? Apparently, how careful do I have to be about my dashbacks? Kate does have a relatively shallow dashback, which can be very good for a lot of things, including baiting specials, but it does mean that you are a little bit more likely to be hit by heavies like that from Shocker, so that was spooky. I was starting to say earlier that if I didn't have that Tranquilize up, then that parry would have been a parry stun, and that would have been the end. And so there were 3 clear things in that fight that I really need to avoid. So you're going to see me try and clean that up a bit in this next one. Now the other big thing that I am focusing on in this duel is really making sure that my timing is tight after using the riposte, so that if he is unblockable, I am hitting him before he is fully knocked out of the medium animation and before the unblockable goes away. So you'll see me back up here, wait for that to go on cooldown, and then we're going to bait out this special one first. Cool, that happens, and then we're going to get the intercept right there. Boom, there go 50 charges. That is the core reason why I'm using Kate in this fight, is for those easy intercepts. She doesn't really have anything else that lines up perfectly against him, but that easy reduction of his charges by well-timed blocking instead of committing to an intercept makes me feel just a lot more warm and cozy, and that is what I want going into a fight that I have not taken yet, and that has killed a lot of people that I consider very good players. So yeah, at this point, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I'm really noticing the limits of her dashback against him. Like I said, it is sometimes a good thing. It's sometimes a bad thing, and I am running into the limits here. That's okay as long as I'm ready for it. That's exactly why you should do duels for something like this. Like I said, this is just a textbook answer of why we do duels, because this second one is going very clean, but I had 3 mistakes in the first one that all could have wound up as a kill in the real event. And so getting those out of the way, getting the mistakes out of the way before it counts, is really important. Alright, so I'm going to skip through the last bit of the duel, head to the actual fight. You'll notice I used the Cold Snap pre-fight. That is kind of my default if I don't need the utility of something else. Again, as with some of these others, I am completely comfortable with the fact that these cold snaps may fall off. It's not Battlegrounds. I don't need to maintain them for any speed reasons. I just need to make sure I get the perfect release for the damage. I can keep them up if that works out. And I need to make sure that I am controlling his charges with those counterattack intercepts. That is the single most important part of this fight. I need to pay attention to my cooldowns, and we will be okay. Didn't mean to get hit there, obviously, but it is what it is. And then we did successfully shut down some charges there. Another nice thing about Kate, or anyone who has damage over time on their specials, is that if you're taking a node like this, like make a stand, then the special itself will supply the knockdown, and then you will be doing plenty of damage afterwards because you still apply the damage over time effect at full strength. So you notice I do get parried there anyway, and watching back, I was clearly too far away and clearly too late, so that is just my fault. But that's okay. Close it out, one more. Glad she's a rank 5. Glad I dueled, because one mistake is better than more mistakes. obviously. Anywho, she's still good for that. The reduction of the charges was the main thing we were going for, and I'm going to skip through this terrifyingly long loading screen to the next fight. So we are also using Mr. Fantastic today. I had this America Chavez duel assigned. We also had a Quicksilver in the field, who I think is a harder counter here, arguably a little bit better. Counters the miss, Wither counters her dimensions, and you have the ability power control. There's just a little bit less to think about, but I knew I could take this with Reed, and scheduling lined up so that it just wasn't quite perfect for the other person, and so here I am taking this one. We are pretty big boosted though, because, like I said, this is not the absolute ideal counter, and so I'm just going to be a little bit careful. We know she's going to heavy. We are always on the watch for it, so we can try and punish the very first hit of it and keep her in Utopian, the Utopian parallel dimension, not let her get into the negative zone, because even though Reed is really good at keeping her off of her special 2, notice we already reversed the power gain on that special 1, we just don't want to deal with it, right? Because that unblockable is one of the scariest things about her. But once we're ramped, there's really not a whole lot going on here. We knock her down again, and we throw this special 2 to make sure we control the falter. Fight's pretty much over here anyway, but yeah, Reed is really, really good for that. He's not a dedicated America Chavez counter, but as one of the science characters, he's good enough at controlling ability power and combat power that he just controls mystics well enough in general. I know he said control a lot in that sentence. So moving on to Quicksilver, this fight is actually the main reason I brought Kate. There are other counters for this, for sure. But a lot of the same things that I said about the earlier fights that make her good hold here as well. We know that the first riposte stun is not going to hold. He is going to purify the passive stun as well. But now we have that cold snap up, and that allows us to take advantage of future stuns by preventing his evades, and we are going to keep that cold snap up. The counterattack is going to mess with things because it's coded as a basic and therefore can mess with the deja vu node, but you are going to see me overwhelmingly stick to medium light for this node. I'm hitting into his block to pause the cold snap here as well. And there you go. Actually super, super clean. The Magneto House of X pre-fight was necessary for that to feel that clean, and the power start made things a lot better, but passive damage against him because gets around the Conflictor node, and then we just need to rely on her control and her evade counter to stay on him until it finishes him. So that was really nice. And then the fight that I've taken more than any other this season, we are once again taking Mangog on 54 with Mr. Fantastic. Add up all the pre-fights. Don't use House of X. We've already talked about that a few times. And we are going to try and, parry heavy. We're going to try and bait the special 1 when we can. Ideally, we even get hit by the second one to lock in the passive. But we are not going to Dex. I will block the special 1 when he throws it. I'll parry it if I can. If I'm late, he hits me with it, that's fine. The special 1 is not what kills people here. That is always going to be the special 2. So you'll see right there, Reed's evade takes care of it. I then drop my block, let him hit me at the end so that I fully ramp, and now I have that much extra combat power rate from the SIG. And I'm still staying super open after my knockdowns so that he can throw the special 1 if he wants. I throw my special 1 here to have the stagger up to deal with his unstoppable. If he throws it, I go ahead and knock him down one more time. There we go, stagger helped us out. We have our evade. But like I said in the last fight, the other thing that's always on my mind is that if he throws a special 2, we then try and push him to another special 2. That calculus changes a little bit if you're fully ramped because you have enough control of his combat power rate that you can probably not do that. But early in the fight, if he throws a special 2, you then focus on immediately pushing him to another special 2 to lock in the passive and keep yourself alive. And like I said earlier, you try not to dex. I don't think I've activated the Dexterity Mastery once this entire fight. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, to go over why again, this node has 100% extra ability power rate. Reed can reduce ability power rate by up to 120%. So 100 plus 100 extra minus 120 is still 80. That means that Mangog is gaining almost as much power just over time as a normal Mangog would be, and we're just accepting that, right? But we don't want him to also gain 80% of what Mystic Dispersion would normally give him, and feed Aspect of Evolution. That's how this fight starts to spiral, and so we just do a lot of knockdowns, and stay super, super open. And so that was a good war. We did end up winning this one. Really happy with Kate's debut. I definitely did make a couple mistakes, but I think those are very good target fights for her. You know, we're dealing with evades, we're dealing with places where her passive damage helps out, and especially you saw, I think, 2 or 3 different places here where her counterattack, the thing that I love so much about Elsa, proved its worth once again by giving us those easy intercepts, easy openings, just a really powerful ability that I'm glad we had room for in her kit. So I hope y'all enjoyed this one, and until next time, thanks so much for watching, and take care.